Water woes now at 10. Flash flooding leaves yards and roads flooded tonight where the water is still standing. Plus, remembering a tragedy 25 years ago today, a school shooting that changed a nation. A special edition of the news at 10 in just 15 minutes. And coverage changes. Those insured by Medicaid need to keep an eye on the mail.
The only live local news in Northeast Arkansas. Region 8 News at 10 starts now.
Well, clear for the weekend, 1st to 10. It is wet out there as you take a live look at Paragould after severe storms moved through the area tonight, flooding the problem now. Good evening and thanks for being here. I'm Chris Carter. Lakes and rivers across Northeast Arkansas are high as flash flooding recedes. This is video that you're about to see of high water taking over backyards in Bryant. Just take a look at those backyards. They look more like lakes. This is just southwest of Little Rock as that heavy rain fell. Let's bring in meteorologist Jace Passmore. Jace, it has been a rainy day out there and even some tornado warnings, but things have moved out.
Yeah, things have moved out. Some of us saw 1 to maybe even 3 inches of rain, but check out the graphic behind me. Watches all gone. The severe weather threat has moved across the river. Let's dial up Storm Track Doppler 8. Notice most of the showers and storms well out of Region 8. We do, as we widen out, we do have a couple confirmed tornadoes, likely an intense EF2 to EF3 tornado ongoing throughout central Mississippi, and more tornado warnings just north of Tupelo. But back home, we are dry, and we'll see the clouds hang out with us, but it's not going to be too bad. Current temperatures across Region 8, we're in the 50s. We're into the mid-50s back into the Ozarks. We're at 58 here in Jonesboro and Harrisburg. Hour by hour shows the clouds hanging out with us. We're going to stay dry. Temperatures hanging out in the 60s before they drop down into the 50s. And for your day tomorrow, check it out. Not too bad. We're in the mid-60s. We're going to be dry, hanging on to that westerly wind. I'll have another look at your weekend forecast coming up.
All right. Thank you, Jace. And be sure to keep notifications for the Region 8 News app on. Several roads across the area are flooded. You can see them on KIT8.com. A breaking news update now. New court documents reveal 2 people were shot at but not hit at a Brooklyn apartment Tuesday morning. It was breaking news on Good Morning Region 8. The suspect in the shooting, Tewan Anthony, appeared in court. He's facing several charges. He was later arrested after the shooting by Craighead County deputies on East Highland Drive near Great Dane Drive. He's being held on a $250,000 bond. Crews will soon be installing new technology at a Lawrence County intersection. The technology uses radar and camera detection to control when and how soon the light changes. RDOT said crews will be at Highway 63 and Highway 91 near Walnut Ridge to make the finishing touches.
We hope we can make some final adjustments and tune it a little bit more to what's really going on at that signal.
RDOT said this is the first of its kind in Northeast Arkansas. Well, changing the coverage tonight, those with Medicaid insurance could soon see some changes. Statewide, there are over 1 million people enrolled in the coverage, and if you are impacted, you need to keep an eye on your mail. Aramani Williams is working for you and shows you what is coming.
About 15 million people will be disenrolled nationwide when Medicaid's continuous enrollment condition ends. The condition took effect in 2020 during the COVID-19 federal public health emergency.
Nobody was going to be disenrolled from Medicaid.
People enrolled in Medicaid kept their enrollment until now. In February, renewal letters started going out to people who needed to renew their Medicaid coverage. According to the Arkansas Comprehensive Unwinding Plan, over 400,000 Arkansans need to be redetermined for Medicaid eligibility.
What we at DHS are going to do is redetermine the eligibility of all the Medicaid beneficiaries who had their coverage extended over those 3 years of the public health emergency.
The federal public health emergency ends in May. For the next 6 months, letters will go out across Arkansas informing people about their Medicaid and what is next. These letters are important to those who will still need coverage. This is a look at the letter to look out for in the mail. More than 400,000 Arkansans will receive this letter. Now, it will show that it's coming from the Arkansas Department of Human Services. Open it up and respond to make sure that enrollment information is received.
The Arkansas Department of Human Services emphasized some letters still need to be sent, so if your address information is updated, you have not missed out on a letter. Your letter is on the way. It may be coming within the next 6 months. Covering the Capitol this Friday night, new legislation would challenge Arkansas's near total abortion ban. It would allow exceptions when a mother's health is at risk. A University of Arkansas political scientist said a yearly poll found the state supports exceptions, but policy does not match that.
It's not to say that Arkansans or, really anyone is wildly enthusiastic about abortion as a medical procedure.
Lawmakers are on spring break right now. They will take up the bill next week. While severe weather moves out, leaving behind flooding in several areas.
We're dry tomorrow in the 60s. Severe weather has moved out. I'll have a look at your weekend and your 8-day forecast coming up.
And honoring the victims, a special edition of Region 8 News on this 25th anniversary of the Westside tragedy begins in 10 minutes.
Region 8 Storm Team Weather with meteorologist Jace Passmore.
We had showers and storms come through the area, but hey, it's all moved out of here. We're dry. You can see the watches have all expired and the showers have moved off across the river, but still dealing with some severe weather down in Mississippi. Storm Track Doppler 8 shows showers and storms moved across the river down in central Mississippi, still dealing with tornado warnings. One of these were confirmed at EF2 to EF3, likely intense as it made its way across central Mississippi. But back home, we are clear and dry, and that will be the trend going forward for at least the next couple of days. We're in the 50s region-wide. We're at 58 in Jonesboro and Harrisburg, a little bit cooler. Mountain Home, we're at 55, and hour by hour shows temperatures dropping down into the 50s, hanging on to that west southwesterly wind. For your day tomorrow, not looking too bad either. We're in the mid to upper 60s across some of Region 8, and let's take a live look outside to our weather camera there in Newport. Beautiful evening there. Beautiful evening in Pocahontas as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of these rainfall totals today. Some of these rainfall totals well above 4 inches in some spots. This is a 48-hour rainfall total. Notice 4 inches down into wind, 2.6 inches here in Jonesboro, nearly 5 inches there in the Boot Hill. So we still have this high risk for flooding. I've kind of tweaked the map a little bit. So from the Boot Hill down through Jonesboro and down to I-40 is where we can still see some flooding, so that's where we also have some of our flood watches. But check out the weekend, not too bad. We're in the mid 60s tomorrow, lows down into the 40s. We're dry for your day on Sunday, a little bit warmer. We're in the mid 60s, lows in the 40s, but hey, at least we are dry. 8-day forecast, check out all that green. We're at 65 tomorrow, 68 on Sunday, 65 on Monday, 59 on Tuesday. We're at 60 on Wednesday before another disturbance moves through next week, bringing in the chance for some rain and storms as well. But behind that, we're in the upper 60s next Saturday.
Definitely been some wet days, Jace.
Definitely. I'm really looking forward to this dry weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Tragedy unfolded in our community 25 years ago today. It was a day that changed Northeast Arkansas and the nation. After the break, we remember the lives taken 25 years ago during the Westside Middle School shooting. Diana Davis joins me for a special edition of Region 8 News next.
A tragedy that changed a nation 25 years ago today.
911, where's your emergency? Yes, we have an emergency at Westside Middle School.
5 people shot and killed as they exited their Jonesboro school.
And I'm trying to kind of wrap my mind around the fact that, my little sister is actually indeed dead.
4 students and 1 teacher murdered at Westside Middle School on March 24th, 1998.
I grew up with a lot of pain and anxiety when it comes to March, especially. It's kind of like the whole month is just kind of like its own month of remembering.
Tonight, we remember the lives taken by 2 students and the first responders who rushed to the scene. This is a special edition of Region 8 News at 10. The Westside tragedy, 25 years later. Here's Diana Davis and Chris Carter.
The sights and sounds of March 24th, 1998 are still vivid in the minds of thousands across Northeast Arkansas. For some, it is a day they will never forget. Good evening. I'm Diana Davis.
And I'm Chris Carter. Over the next 15 minutes, we will look back at that Tuesday and how it changed our nation. The focus is on those who died. Among them, 6th grade teacher, 32-year-old Shannon Wright, 12-year-old Stephanie Johnson, 11-year-old Natalie Brooks, 12-year-old Paige Ann Herring, and 11-year-old Brittany Varner.
Brittany Varner died at the hospital after hours of life-saving surgery. Her older sister was at the high school and watched the chaos unfold at her sister's school. Tonight, she shares her memories of that day and what she remembers of her sister with our Hayden Savage.
When we received the announcement overhead that there had been an incident at the middle school and we were just told to lock our exterior doors, we really didn't, have any idea what was going on.
A day of chaos and confusion for Brandy Varner as she watched first responders rush to Westside Middle School, where her little sister Brittany attended. Moments after lockdown, Varner was picked up from the school and taken to the hospital where she learned her sister was shot.
And they were like, yeah, she's here, she was in surgery, she's in recovery now, you're gonna get to see her.
Varner and her mother waited for a doctor to come and talk to them about Brittany's condition. But when doctors began to speak, Brandy heard news she was not expecting.
And then he said, I'm sorry. He said we just couldn't save her. That was when, obviously Mom, she started crying.
Brittany was 11 when she died. Within minutes, the Varner family went from thinking Brittany was alive to being told she was dead, then viewing her body.
I remember Mom walked over to the bed where she was at, and I remember as soon as I saw her, I just kind of fell on the floor.
The Westside tragedy made headlines all across the globe.
Not only are you dealing with the fact that you've had this tragic thing happen and you're like my sister had died and we're trying to deal with that, but there was obviously, it was national news. And so many people were curious and wanted to know.
The Varner family followed around by members of the media. The day of the funeral, Varner remembered the lines of cameras, and on the way to a cemetery, a media member stopping the procession for a photo.
They were literally lined up on the side of the road, and one jumps down in front of the hearse to get a picture of the hearse. And not only that, they were offering people money to get a picture of her in her casket.
Varner said years later, she still sees Brittany daily. She said she will never forget that day 25 years ago. In Jonesboro, Hayden Savage, Region 8 News.
The Varner family held a gathering at Brittany's gravesite where they planted flowers and recalled memories from the day back in 1998.
The Westside shooting changed the lives of 4 other families as well. The memories of that day are ingrained in their minds, and talking about it is obviously hard. Among them, 11-year-old Natalie Brooks. Brooks loved to be in the pool. She loved Jesus and was baptized 2 days before she died. She was known for carrying her Bible to school.
12-year-old Paige Ann Herring also died. She loved basketball and music. Her love for singing was so strong she wanted to be a music teacher when she grew up. 12-year-old Stephanie Johnson was also killed. Those who knew her described her as friendly and quiet. She loved shoes, fishing, and she volunteered at the animal shelter.
The only teacher killed during the chaos was 32-year-old Shannon Wright. The mother of one taught English at the school she attended as a child. Wright loved her students, every single one of them. Following the shooting, she was called a hero. After news broke, she stepped in front of a student to shield that student from gunfire. Tonight, her widower and son sat down with me to remember the teacher who gave all. If pictures could talk.
She was just easy going. I mean, just fun to be around.
The stories these pictures would tell.
She was my calm. She was my calm.
Are the memories Mitch Wright has of his wife, Shannon. Memories of happiness, sadness, and laughter.
She was dark-headed, but she was very blonde. Okay? And I mean that in a very sweet way.
Shannon Wright was the only teacher killed when 2 students opened fire at Westside Middle School. Mitch remembers the day vividly, the hours in the hospital as doctors worked to save his wife, the mother of his child.
We knew that she wasn't going to make it.
Zane Wright was just over 2 years old when his mother died. He has few memories of her. but over time, knowing about the tragedy led him to find his mother's qualities in himself.
In a lot of different ways, it molded me into someone today that can be empathetic, that can be compassionate.
Those qualities played a big role in Zane's life, especially in the last year when he was able to forgive his mother's killers, reaching out to Mitchell Johnson on Facebook.
I want you to know that I forgive you, and I did. I finally gotten to that point where after kind of months of wrestling with it for real, I was like, I really have forgiven you. I want you to know that.
Shannon's legacy doesn't just live on in her son and now grandchildren, but her own actions speak volumes.
He had pointed the gun at me, and Miss Wright had seen him, I guess, and whenever she did that, she stepped in front of me and he shot her.
Reports said Shannon shielded a student from gunfire.
I think Shannon just reacted. She loved those kids.
A decision that helps her only son move forward.
That was one of those things that always did give me a little bit of comfort, was all her students that over the years have reached out, messaged me, and said, hey, I mean, this is what a special person your mom was.
And as the Wrights keep memories of Shannon close to their hearts and pictures in hand, they hope their tragedy will help others.
The only thing you can really hope for is a change of heart.
Now, both Mitch and Zane told me they have forgiven both shooters. Mitch, Shannon's widow, said some days are harder than others.
911 calls began pouring into dispatchers moments after the first shots rang out. It is clear the gravity of the situation was quickly understood by those who answered the calls for help.
911, where's your emergency? Yes, we're having an emergency at Westside Middle School.
Ma'am, we've got everybody en route. Everybody's en route. Okay, just be somewhere where it's safe.
Okay.
Stay inside.
Okay.
Stay inside, okay? They're there, honey.
To fathom the magnitude of what happened that day at Westside is to understand how quickly everything happened. It only took seconds for this tragedy to unfold and years for ripple effects to still be felt. It was a beautiful spring day, the second one back after spring break for students and teachers when everything changed. Andrew Golden pulled the fire alarm at 12:30 p.m., then ran to a wooded area behind the school where Mitchell Johnson had an arsenal of guns.
And then all of a sudden we started hearing this big old loud sounds.
As students filed out, the pair opened fire.
I'm outside, and all of a sudden there was shooting.
Students, confused, thought the first shots were fireworks. They saw classmates hit and began to run. Doors locked behind them. Construction and mud made their escape route worse. To get away, they had to run with no cover through the hail of gunfire.
Do you know if there's only one shot?
No, this is terrible.
Law enforcement located the shooters and secured the scene. Every ambulance in the Jonesboro area was on its way to Westside Middle School. By 12:45, an emergency alert goes out at St. Bernard's. Doctors, nurses, and staff began assembling at the ER. Messages said this is not a drill.
There was one dead on arrival, one died in the emergency room, and one died in the operating room.
Teacher Shannon Wright died in surgery after being shot in the abdomen. At the same time, a candlelight vigil was being held on the Arkansas State University campus, and Jonesboro had every national news organization on its doorstep.
15 satellite trucks in the school parking lot.
Right now on KAITA.com, you can see a full timeline of events, read the depositions of the two shooters, and see raw interviews from those we talked to for this special.
News of the Westside tragedy spread quickly. Then President Bill Clinton was overseas at the time of the shooting, and he quickly reacted. The incident was the third fatal shooting at a U.S. school in just 5 months. President Clinton asked then Attorney General Janet Reno to gather experts to analyze all of the tragedies. He then addressed the nation days later as the victims were laid to rest.
I do not understand what dark force could have driven young people to do this terrible thing. As president, I have seen many children killed by political fanatics, but in some ways, this is even harder to grasp. For now, all we can do is to pray for peace and healing for their families.
Following the Westside shooting, President Clinton urged Congress to tighten restrictions on children's access to guns. He was joined by Brittany Varner's mother, and that push would ultimately fail. And as the investigation stretched into the coming days, new details were revealed about the shooters.
It included information about where the guns came from and how long the two young boys had been planning their attack.
A community shocked by a shooting at the hands of an 11 and 13-year-old.
It's not something that you would expect out of your child or anybody else's child.
Families shattered, trying to understand as court proceedings got underway.
Also, when we come back, the details of why revealed in court documents.
You know, I never went to the school that day to kill anyone.
Special coverage of the Westside tragedy 25 years later continues after this.
A day that changed a community. You're watching a special edition of Region 8 News at 10. The Westside tragedy, 25 years later.
The mother of one of the Westside shooters, Mitchell Johnson, once approached me in the post office nearly a year after the shooting. She said she wanted me to know how sorry she was for what happened. Johnson was adjudicated delinquent by the state and locked up at the Alexander unit for violent troubled youth. He was released in 2005 at 21. Since then, he was arrested multiple times. He was sentenced to prison but has since been freed. Mitchell Johnson is the only school shooter alive walking free right now. I tried to contact him and his mother for an interview. Gretchen Woodard did return my call. She said Mitchell doesn't want to talk about the shooting and said it was like a heavy coat that you can't take off for him.
The youngest of the two shooters, Andrew Golden, he was just 11 years old at the time of the shooting. Golden changed his name to Drew Grant after he was released from jail. That was in 2007 at the age of 21. During the trial, Golden pled not guilty. His attorney tried to make the case his client was insane at the time of the shooting and not mentally competent to stand trial. A judge would not allow that to happen. Grant was killed in 2019 in a car crash in Independence County. Grant died at the scene after his car was hit head-on. A second person in another car was also hit. We have reached out to the surviving members of Golden's family, including his wife at the time of the crash. No one has returned our requests for comment. And right now on KAIT8.com, we have web exclusives, including the story of how the shooting changed the lives of a reporter who covered it and what the day was like for the first two officers on scene. We want to thank you for joining us for this special edition of Region 8 News at 10, the 25th anniversary of the Westside Middle School shooting.
A tragedy that broke the heart of this community. Healing has come over time at the broken places, but we shall never forget those lives lost forever.
Shannon Wright, a teacher at Westside Middle School, 32 years of age. Natalie Brooks, 11 years of age. Paige Herring, 12 years of age. Stephanie Johnson, 12 years of age. Brittany Varner, 11 years of age.